Hello everyone, and welcome back to another manga review. I am the Rat, and this is the Rat's Nest. Today, we have a very special volume that is very special and very near and dear to my heart. So One Piece, Volume 1. As of the time of recording this, we're currently in the month break after 1053 before 1054, where Oda's taking a break to plan out the final saga and all that. And, Break Week does crazy things to people, bro. Break Month has been driving people insane. And I recently purchased Volume 1 of One Piece physically because whenever I read the manga to catch up, I just read it on the Shōnen Jump app or the Viz app, you know what you call it, just easy. It was the easiest that way. And I decided that I would start my reread through of One Piece here. And so I reread Volume 1. And what an experience it was. It was a ton of fun. A little bit of preface here. Really enjoyed Volume 1. Obviously, my first experience with One Piece, whenever I started reading it, I was reading the colored version, and I, looked up online, some totally legal websites, and the one that I found, I was like, okay, cool, here's Chapter 1. Well, it wasn't Chapter 1. What it was the Romance Dawn side story. And so I read that, specifically the one with Garp. So I read that thinking it was Chapter 1. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever, this works. I was like, I guess this chick's probably going to come back at some point. I was like, I think she's different from Nami. I didn't know much about One Piece going into it. I told my friend, I was like, yeah, Luffy's grandpa's pretty cool. He's like, you've met Luffy's grandpa? I was like, yeah, the pirate. He was like, I think you read the wrong Chapter 1. I was like, oh, did I? And yeah, no, I did. Here going through Chapter 1, this is kind of my first time reading One Piece, starting on the proper Chapter 1. It was very good. Here I have my notes, and as always, we are going to go through them and talk about the amazing world of One Piece Volume 1. We have Shanks. Something that I always find funny is going back through these older series to the beginning and kind of seeing stuff that would later be like not developed or kind of like soft retconned. It's funny how much emphasis was put on swimming, especially in Romance Dawn. Romance Dawn being Chapter 1. It's funny, Shanks being Shanks, absolutely the Chad hockey user he is, absolutely trolling all the Devil Fruit users, being like, you can't be a pirate if you can't swim. Just you gotta love Shanks here. Just true hockey being absolutely based. I also thought it was very interesting how they called Luffy Anchor in this one, and that was like kind of like his nickname was the Anchor because he couldn't swim. Obviously, once he gets his Devil Fruit, that's a more permanent thing. I think that's very emphasis how much emphasis was put on swimming at the beginning of the series, and obviously I think Oda has had the ending of One Piece planned out since he started it, but we also know that he can he does the things. I like to think it's fairly common knowledge within the One Piece community that the entirety of the Worst Generation was written the week before the chapter came out that they were introduced in, because Oda thought he should introduce some characters like that. So while One Piece definitely is a series that is planned out a lot in advance, it's also definitely subject to Oda's whims and him adding on to it as it goes. And so I feel like, we'll probably see stuff again. Devil Fruit users not being able to swim is a pretty big thing. And is presented as such in the story, but definitely not as much of a focus as it was at the beginning. Especially with Luffy's nickname being Air. I thought that was so interesting how that was like completely dropped. And I like Ben Beckman's kind of saying where he was like, you to be a pirate, pillaging, hostage taking, heavy drinking. Oh my gosh, I can't read my own handwriting. Heavy drinking and swimming. That's what you need to be a pirate according to Ben Beckman. It's so interesting to see these characters like older and kind of how One Piece has changed from the beginning, being more traditionally pirate to more like One Piece pirate. I think it's a very interesting case, and especially coming up with we're thinking we're going to get to see Shanks again relatively soon. It'll be very interesting to see how his character has really changed. We also have Shanks wearing his coat. And so that's the question now. Is the question that a lot of people ask, is Shanks an emperor at this point? Personally, I don't think so. I think he's probably close to war. I don't think he's an emperor here. It's hard to power scale, and we don't know. I figure we will know at some point. But I definitely don't think that he is an emperor yet at this point. But he is wearing the coat, the coat without the sleeves, and that's the sign of an emperor. And I think it's also interesting to see the mountain bandit and 8 million berries, or yeah, it was 8, yeah, 8 million, yeah. And now we know the bounties, but 8 million, at least at the beginning, wasn't anything to scoff at. We have Shanks being like, you can do whatever you want to me, but the second you mess with my friends, that's when you're taking it too far. And it's interesting to see Shanks in this chapter and to kind of see how Luffy is taken after him, especially in that regard. Obviously we get the Jaya parallels with Shanks and Luffy, with Bellamy insulting Luffy and Zoro and them not doing anything. And, that shows Luffy's growth from Romance Dawn to Jaya. But it's definitely cool to see, especially now in Wano when Luffy has grown so much more, to see how exactly he's taken after Shanks from this beginning part. We also have Shanks leave off. Obviously, Shanks loses his arm. We got the first recorded instance of Conqueror's Haki used. Luffy's eaten the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika. And now Shanks is heading off. And then 10 years pass, and Luffy is heading off. This is after, obviously, met Ace and everything. We know that later. And Luffy says the funny line, about 10 men should do. Is still debated today. So obviously Jinbei's a Straw Hat, even if not officially. I want Yamato to be a Straw Hat. That's more of a chapter review discussion. But we are getting very close to that number. This little number that I mean, maybe Oda had a plan for exactly who the Straw Hats were going to be. Personally, I don't think so. I think he had a plan for some of them. About 10 men. That was probably Oda being like, yeah, about 10 Straw Hats sounds good. But, does that mean 10 including Luffy, 10 excluding, could you get more? Could you get less? I don't know. Whether or not Yamato joins, it will either be her or Jinbei. That's the last Straw Hat, I really feel. I don't think they'll go with anyone in any arc after this. Next we have Kobe. Kobe is such an interesting character because he's kind of Luffy's first travel companion. And to say he's a little bit of a missed potential is tough to say because there's still so much more One Piece to be had. I think he definitely could have been more present throughout the series in some capacity, but it's been very cool to see him when we have seen him. Again, it's weird because he joined with Luffy before even Zoro. And so I definitely wish that we could have seen more of Kobe up to the, I figure we'll get more Kobe as the series goes on. But I wish we could have seen more of him, up to this point to kind of see him develop a rivalry similar to what Garp and Roger are implied to have had. And then this is one thing that I really appreciate about One Piece, and one thing that early on kind of hooked me on the series because I was pretty undecided. Now I'm a huge One Piece fan. Was Luffy telling Kobe I realize that I'll probably I might die on my quest to become Pirate King. He's like, I completely realize that. He's like, and I'm fine with that. He's like, at least he's like, even if I die, I can say that I tried. I really that really impressed me. That writing, because so many characters are like, I'm gonna to rag on Black Clover a little bit. I'm gonna become the Wizard King because I want to help people. Luffy wants to be Pirate King because we don't know his reasoning yet, but he's the freest man in the world. Just to see Luffy be realistic about it, being like, yeah, no, I know that my life is at risk at this. He's like, but I believe I can do it. He's like, and even if I die, at least I die trying. It's a more mature look on it, and saying that was shonen, but it's a more mature look on it that I really appreciate and stood out to me early on. It's like, okay, maybe this One Piece thing is legit. Maybe this One Piece series is legit. Maybe Monkey D. Luffy is pretty freaking cool. And then you get the funny her Jordans are fake. Alvida, it's an interesting fight. Interesting enough for kind of the obviously Romance Dawn being the first arc. Well, for a first little fight, it's interesting enough. It's your shonen stuff. Like I said, I like Kobe and all that. And then we get after Alvida, we go to, I can't remember the name of the town, with Captain Morgan, and we get Zoro. Zoro is my favorite Straw Hat. That's pretty consistent. I love Zoro so much. His intro is really cool, even though it does have the one funny thing where he's like, hey, untie me and I'll do whatever. And then later he's like, no, don't untie me. I have to wait here for a month. It's just good old classic Zoro, and the meeting of Luffy and Zoro is so cool, especially knowing how far they come later on, in Wano, whenever they're standing next to each other on top of a roof piece and facing down the two emperors. It's cool stuff. It's really cool to kind of see that first little intro. And we also get Zoro's backstory here, which I really hope, as a Zoro fan, I hope we do get a second backstory at some point to kind of flesh him out more. You have Down D Stare as his greatest enemy. I think it deserves to be brought up more, and I think it will with Tashigi, because I feel like Oda wouldn't just throw in a character that looks exactly like Zoro's childhood friend and make her a swordsman for no reason. If he did, oh well, that's just I'll be disappointed, but I don't necessarily expect it. I've been burned before on series with expectations, so I'll just eat that. But I really do feel like there might be something there. And we did get a little bit more Zoro backstory in Wano. But this original backstory, it's short, it's simple, it's sweet. It works as a backstory. Zoro, to call him a simple character isn't necessarily true, but the backstory 100% works for him. I do hope that he gets another one later on, maybe related to Yuma. I'm not a ZKK guy. I promise. Morgan as a captain. Yeah, and I think this is interesting because this is our first introduction to the Navy. And we see Captain Morgan obviously being tyrannical. And so it's like, okay, well, is all the Navy tyrannical? No, the soldiers are good. And then Kobe being like, I want to join the Navy. Like that, it's a good mark. And of course, later on, we learn the different factions within the Navy itself. With the admirals, Aokiji versus Akainu, and then you have Garp and Sengoku, and now Fujitora and Ryokugyo. It's just super cool, but this is kind of our first experience with it, and so for it to be that kind of negative thing, it's very interesting, especially later on, and we'll get to it whenever we get to Low Count. Smoker's introduction, I feel, was done very well, especially in contrast to Morgan. Not saying Morgan's was done bad, but when you compare the two of them and put them together, it elevates both of them. It really does. I enjoy Morgan as a villain. I enjoyed the fight. It's a solid One Piece fight. Luffy and Zoro. It's just fun. Getting to know the Goma Goma no Mi and Zoro Santoryu. It's fun, and just all around a solid fight. I feel like Captain Morgan. While I don't necessarily think he deserves the rank of captain, but that's more the power scaler in me. And so it's fine, and it's fine. We get to see Luffy and Kobe fighting. Then we get Luffy and Kobe fighting, and I think that's a great scene once again, just to kind of, it's another scene that kind of stood out to me, that kind of separates One Piece from the pack a bit. And with Zoro joining the Straw Hats, and Luffy finally being a pirate captain, and Kobe there, obviously Kobe had to split off because he wanted to be a Marine man. Like, I think that's a little bit of a wasted potential. Wasted potential is such a strong word with Kobe. I think Oda could have been doing more with him, but at least in this scene, it's very good because, again, it shows how realistic Luffy is, where he knows, like, okay, well, Kobe's not going to be accepted into the Marines to do what he wants to do if he's associated with a pirate. So, he does the whole thing where he riles Kobe up to punch him and be like, okay, yeah, no, you're not. You guys aren't friends, all that. I really appreciated that. And Luffy, just as a protagonist, kind of how he can go from, he is silly ultimately, but he's realistic about stuff. And I really appreciate that aspect of him, because it's so rare to see stuff like that, especially nowadays. I really appreciated it. It really stood out to me, especially whenever I was reading it the first time. I was like, I was like, this Luffy guy is going to be good. Because a lot of series for me are made or broken on the protagonists. And so to have a solid protagonist like Luffy, I feel it worked really good to separate One Piece for me, and for it to stand out to me early as a series. I'm like, okay, well, I'm probably gonna like this stuff. I really appreciated how later on, whenever he's in the thing with Zoro, he mentioned a navigator, cook, and a musician, because obviously he gets all of them. As I thought it was a nice little thing how far forward Brook was foreshadowed. And then finally, to end off the volume, we got a chapter 2 of the beginning of Orange Town with future Yonko, Buggy D Clown. I cannot wait for volume 2, which has the Yonko fight. We also get Nami's introduction and the map of the Grand Line, which I think was it says a map of the Grand Line. I think it was later retconned, or later whatever you want to say it was, to be a map to the Grand Line, Yeah, Buggy D Clown. Orange Town is a solid arc, and we'll get more into that next time with a review of One Piece Volume 2. So look forward to that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video.